Okay, Superman the Animated Series. We got Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Alana Lang, Lex Luthor, Mxyzlplik, Mxyzptlk, and then what's this one? Yidna Edonk. Yidna Edonk. Oh, dang it! Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you once again. And if you're new here, I hope you'll stick around because this is the show that you've been looking for, where we go back and look at each and every episode of a show that we grew up on in the 90s and look at them from the perspective now, 25 plus years later. And right now we're going through a series talking about Superman, the animated series. So you don't want to miss an episode, so hit subscribe. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit the like button because I'm sure you're going to like this episode. Because today we're talking about Mxyzptlk, which originally aired on September 20th, 1997.
Look at that crazy little man.
So happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back to the regularly scheduled programs of reviewing Superman the Animated Series. And we are partway through the second season, and it's really becoming apparent that the show is taking on a life of its own and a style of its own and a tone that's very different from Batman, but enjoyable in different ways. And this episode is no exception. It's much more of a comical episode as we introduce Mxyzptlk or Mxyzptlk or Mxyzptlk. It's pronounced in a lot of different ways. I'll probably say Mxyzptlk just because that's the way I'm used to it. Although in the Super Friends, I think it was Mxyzptlk. And I think I'm mispronouncing what I thought it was on Super Friends. Mxyzptlk. I don't know. However you pronounce it, it doesn't matter to me. But we're going to talk all about that right after our 60-second Brainiac bomb to give you a complete rundown of the episode in 60 seconds or less. Let's see if I can do it. There's an odd man that's walking around Metropolis looking for McGurk. It's Mxyzptlk, and then we see Clark and Lois at this museum opening, and he's walking in and causing a lot of havoc looking for McGurk, and he sees the Thinker statue, and he goes, oh, that's it. And Superman goes in to stop him and ends up punching the head of the statue off, and everybody goes, what'd you do that for? And because he was seeing all these visions, he goes to his mother, Jonathan and Martha Kent, and says what's going on there, and then they start acting like chickens, and Mxyzptlk shows back up, and he goes, hey, I just want to play games and have some fun. And he goes, well, there's got to be some rules, Superman tells him, and Mxyzptlk goes, yes, if you can get me to say my name backwards, kill Zim, then I will disappear for 3 months. And so Superman tricks him into doing that, and then 3 months later he comes back, and this goes on and on a few times, and he even involves a robot at one point, and that doesn't work. And then finally, Superman is fed up with this after years of this going on, that he finally goes, listen, how do I get you to go away forever? And Mxyzptlk says, well, I'll tell you what, if you can get me to say, read, or write my name backwards twice in a row, then I'll be gone out of your life So Superman goes, oh, I don't care, you can stay here, and he flies away, and Mxyzptlk turns into a rocket and is chasing him around the sky and looks like he's getting the best of him, and he finally shows up and he goes, see, I beat you, I won you in the race. And then Superman spins him around and goes, but look at the sky, and he had wrote his name in skywriting twice, and so he vanishes from Superman's life. It's a complex episode, I guess.
And now we are proud to present...
So yes, this episode is a lot of fun, which is surprising because it is more of a comedy than a action adventure kind of show, which typically is not my preference. But if you embrace this show for what it is, which is more of a comedy, even the music in this is more Looney Tunes-esque than heroic, powerful orchestra sound. But I think that this shows that Superman and the showrunners are finding what works best for this show versus the early season, and in season 1 felt more like they were trying to use what worked with Batman, and it wasn't. And I'm seeing a trend as they start to find their footing in this. And Mxyzptlk has always been a very fun character. He is very powerful being. He's able to do like almost anything he can think of, like a genie. He can make things appear and turn people into things and move there and go here. And yet all he wants to do is just have some fun and torment and tease Superman in the process. Whereas I feel like he could just snap his fingers and kill Superman. That's not what he wants to do. He likes toying around with him, which makes a very fun threat for Superman. And it's not a battle of strength. It is just simply that Superman is annoyed by this little creature and is trying to trick him into disappearing.
You, my friend, are the ultimate challenge.
Gilbert Gottfried, who is also not one of my favorite actors, is really appropriately cast in this show as Mxyzptlk. He has an annoying voice and he plays an annoying character. It's a match made in heaven.
Confusing, ain't it?
And I also remember that Howie Mandel played Mxyzptlk in Lois and Clark, which I also think was pretty good casting. Again, Howie Mandel, not one of my favorite actors, sort of annoying, playing this type of character, works perfectly.
I wanted to show you there ain't nothing you can do to stop me.
But what I appreciate about this episode is the cleverness in the writing, is that it isn't just an episode where Mxyzptlk shows up and goes, hey, you got to get me to say my name backwards and I'll disappear. And that being the whole episode of Superman trying to figure out a way of tricking him into saying his name backwards. No, they do it several times. They have different ways of him getting him to say that, whether it be written or whether it be saying it, or Superman playing dumb, or to write his name backwards. All these different devices that he uses, which shows Superman's intellect, but makes it a much more varied episode. And I was reading somewhere that statistically, this episode takes place the second longest span of time, which is like a couple of years, because he comes back every 3 months. Second to the first episode, which takes place from the time Clark is a baby to the time he's an adult, which is a weird statistic, but there you have it. Now it's yours. Enjoy.
What's it gonna take to get rid of you? Forever.
It gave an opportunity for the show to just not take itself seriously and have some fun. And one of my favorite parts of the episode was the whole robot gag. He comes back to the fifth dimension and is working diligently to try to create something to be able to stop Superman, and spends all this time, the whole 3 months perceivably, to build this sort of mech suit giant creature thing. And then they don't even show what happens. They stay on his wife in the fifth dimension reading a magazine, and he disappears. She counts down from 5 and he appears.
5, 4, 3.
Nuts! Not one word.
Incidentally, is his wife the nurse from Animaniacs?
Hello, nurse.
The other thing that this episode gave an opportunity for is there is a ton of Easter eggs in this episode. When Jimmy Olsen first shows the newspaper to Clark to show the comic strip, first of all, there's several Easter eggs in those comic strips as they pan down the page. And then when they finally land on the Mxyzptlk comic, it's written by Siegel and Schuster, who are the creators of Superman, and I assume Mxyzptlk as well.
What a riot.
Also, it's been just part of my psyche, and I don't know if it was a joke or if there's an actual reference to this, but I've always been aware of or thought or pictured a moment of Superman shaving using his heat vision in the mirror and reflecting it back and cutting his bristles. And I don't know if that's something that was established in the comics, or if the scene in this episode is the one that I'm always thinking of, or this is where it originated from, him shaving using his heat vision. I don't know, I'd have to do some research to see if this is the origin of that concept that Superman shaves by using his heat vision in the mirror.
Hi, guy.
You also, when Superman is talking with Jonathan and his parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent, which this may be the first time that I've seen that dynamic happen in the show. I could be wrong, but I think it's the first time. There's a cat there, and I was reading about it. That is, in fact, Streaky the Super Cat. Although Streaky doesn't have superpowers in this, that there is a moment where Mxyzptlk is making the cat fly, which I think is a little paying homage to the fact that Streaky does have superpowers and can also fly. this type of storyline provided a great platform to be able to bring in all these kind of obscure other references in the Superman world into the episode.
Did something just happen?
No. What's for dinner?
So when it comes time to rank this episode, it is really, truly just a lot of fun. And I feel like it goes against everything that I've been saying up to this point. But I really appreciate that the show took this direction to have some fun with it. One of my complaints about some of the other episodes is when they create a villain to try to stand toe-to-toe with Superman, it doesn't work because he's so powerful and so strong that the story that has to support this other person being an adversary for him falls apart. Whereas in this episode, we have a very strong villain who can do just about anything else, who's just annoying. All he's doing is trying to annoy Superman and have some fun. And that makes for a different dynamic versus just somebody that can face off against Superman power-wise, but it gives Superman an opportunity to be a little bit more creative, and it changes the tone of the show and the episode to be a little bit more comical and have a little bit more fun with it. So for those reasons, it falls at the number 7 spot. It lands in my top 10 favorite episodes so far. It's just below Identity Crisis because I think in the same vein, Identity Crisis also kind of doesn't take itself seriously and certainly has some fun with Bizarro Superman. But it also is, to me, a more iconic villain that I think sets up a bigger story and has a little bit more layers to it than just this one being fun and comical, although it does that well. Because it does beat out the episode Fun and Games, which was not fun and games. That I think that what that episode would have benefited from was this sort of interpretation, was making the Toy Master more of a fun, whimsical sort of episode. And even though they used some of the toys, but I think that was so early in the series that they were trying hard to make him more of like a Batman villain and have him be a strong adversary and keeping that darker tone. Whereas if they would have just had some more fun with it, like they did in this episode, I think it would have benefited.
You were just toying with me the whole time!
So the question of the episode is, what are some of the Easter eggs that you noticed in this episode? So leave a comment below and let me know the Easter eggs that you've noticed in the show. If you enjoyed my take on this episode, then please hit the like button. And if you want to see more episodes just like this, then hit subscribe. We have new episodes reviewing the animated series every Tuesday and Thursday. And next up, I'm going to be reviewing the episode Action Figures, so you don't want to miss that. As always, I'm Andy Knode. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.